about Sir Isaac Newton, who is an English mathematician, physicist, astronomer, theologian, and an author who is widely recognized as one of the most influential scientists of all time and as a key figure in the scientific revolution. One of his laws is the law of viscosity, which is that constant viscosity is independent of stress, which means that if we have a fluid, it still acts the same no matter if we place pressure on it. For example, water. When we place pressure on water, if we try to smash it with our hand, then it still acts the same as a fluid. Here I will show you an experiment, a very easy experiment that shows a liquid that breaks this principle. It is called the non-Newtonian fluid. There are a couple of examples of non-Newtonian fluids. For example, ketchup. Here I will show you a very simple way to make a non-Newtonian fluid, which is with starch, cornstarch, and water. The non-Newtonian fluid, why it doesn't act according to the principle, how it doesn't act according to the principle is that when you slowly place your hand through it, then it still acts as a liquid. But when you apply more pressure to it, if you, for example, hit it with your hand, then it acts as a solid. That is why it breaks the principle, because stress is dependent of its viscosity. If viscosity changes, it becomes like a solid when you place pressure on it. So let's get started with the experiment. Now, as you will see, this experiment is very easy. I am putting on my safety goggles, and I also have put on my safety gloves. Now I have a plastic trace, some cornstarch, some water in a glass beaker, and a mixing object as well as a trace. I also have a cup to create my non-Newtonian fluid in. Now I'm basically pouring in some water into the cup, and now I will be just adding cornstarch. This is a perfect example of the non-Newtonian fluid. When I mix it gently without applying force to it, it acts as a liquid. But if I add pressure to it, if I apply pressure to it, it acts as a solid. My spoon is not able to go through the substance. So you may ask, why exactly does the substance behave so strangely? Well, I'll explain you. The particles of cornstarch are very small, tiny. So when they're together, when we mix them together with water, we mix a solid with a liquid. Now, when we apply pressure on the non-Newtonian fluid, the water escapes, but because the cornstarch particles are so small, they stay together. So when we apply pressure, the friction between the particles causes us to feel that it is a solid, because all the water, all the liquid escapes and only the particles stay, and the friction between them to the touch makes the substance feel solid. But when we slowly mix the substance, or we slowly play with it, then it stays liquid, because the particles are flowing with the water, and that is why there is no friction between the particles, so it remains a liquid.